Chapter 16:14. All the descendants of the Anderson family, when you look at me and when I look at you, they all think this incident is almost a fantasy. Compared with the Sioux family, the Anderson family is similar, and the comprehensive strength of the Sioux family is about 20% higher than that of the Anderson family. However, because the Sioux family's and Anderson family's property base is too large, the difference in money between the 20% gap is also astonishing. If the Anderson family wants to surpass the Sioux family, it will be possible to increase their assets by at least a few $100 billion. The size of the Sioux family is stronger than that of the Anderson family, and the development speed is naturally faster than that of the Anderson family. So the gap between the Anderson family and the Sioux family is actually slowly widening. Now wanting to go up against the trend and catch up with the Sioux family all the way is not only difficult, but more like a fantasy. Minato could not help but sigh when everyone was silent. 20 years ago, when Robson was still alive, under his leadership, the Anderson family almost surpassed the Sioux family. At that time, Robson formulated a strategy to dominate the country. Eastcliff's big family believed that the Anderson family would inevitably surpass the Sioux family and become the top of the country. Having said that, Minato was silent for a moment, his eyes full of compassion, and said, "But, after Robson left, you people are really not as good as one." When Cynthia heard this, she was very dissatisfied and said, "Dad, it would be boring if you say that. We always say that we are not as good as Robson, and that is not as good as Robson, but you drove away the Robson family." Driving him away, maybe the Anderson family had now achieved the goal of dominating the country. "You," Minato pointed at Cynthia angrily, trying to yell at her, but then he put it back. He sighed and said to everyone, "What happened back then is over. Let's focus on the present." Cynthia said, "Do you always have any good ways to shorten the distance between us and the Sioux family?" Minato hesitated for a moment, and said, "The Sioux family has always been a prosperous male lead. Father Sioux has 5 sons and 13 grandchildren, but he seems to have only 2 granddaughters. One of them is 22 years old this year and has reached the age of marriage, and the other is a minor. These 2 granddaughters are like pearls in the hands of the Sioux family. If the Anderson family's grandchildren can marry the Sioux family's granddaughter, it will definitely help the Anderson family." Alex's aunt, Cynthia, said, "Dad, Sue's granddaughter is very much loved in Sue's family. If you want to marry her, at least it must be our eldest grandson." Anderson's grandson is the son of Cynthia. At this time, Cynthia sighed and said, "He has already signed a marriage contract with the Norwegian royal princess last year. The wedding will be held this summer." Almost all Eastcliff knows about this. There is no room for mediation. "Yeah," Alex's cousin said, "the Jiu of the Sioux family, I have been in contact before. This woman has a cold personality and rarely participates in social activities. Many domestic and foreign celebrity gatherings have changed. She has never accepted the invitation. To pursue her is as difficult as going to heaven. What's more, I have a marriage contract. If I go to pursue her, the Sioux family can see my motives at a glance." One of Alex's cousins, Henderson, the eldest son of Chang Yun, the eldest third of the Anderson family, couldn't hide his excitement and said, "Grandpa, why don't I try?" Andrew, Alex's first uncle, glanced at this plain-looking nephew, shook his head and said, "Henderson, the strength of the Sioux family is above us, even if you are the eldest son of brother. You may not be able to enter the eyes of the Sioux family. Not to mention you." Chang Yun said a little displeased, "Brother, what you said is boring. Who stipulated that Sue's parents and granddaughters must marry someone else's eldest son? Maybe our Henderson has this charm?" Andrew chuckled, "The third, if you are not convinced, you can let Henderson give it a try. I'm just afraid that Henderson won't even have a chance to meet Jiu. In that case, it would be a laugh." Elder Anderson couldn't help sighing, splashing cold water, and said, "Want to marry the Sioux family, Henderson is really too far behind." As he said, he suddenly remembered something. His eyes flashed. He looked at Nolan, who had not spoken, and said, "Nolan, do you think that if the son of Robson is allowed to marry the Sioux family, can he agree?"